Hello, class. Today I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about research and the importance of where you actually conduct your research. So you will notice that today I am starting here on the Google homepage because most of you are used to Googling information when you want to know about something. We have all kind of gone to this default of Googling, which has actually, become a term that we use in our everyday lexicon. We have turned the word Google, which is actually a noun, into a verb, and we, we now Google items to find out what it is that we want to know. And Google is wonderful, obviously. It certainly has its place, or else it wouldn't be as successful as it is. However, when we are talking about doing scholarly research, which means research for academic writing, we really want to be wary of Google or other search engines similar to this because, first of all, as I'm sure you are all aware, we can have information that is really just not good at all. I mean, really just junk. Secondly, you have information that's really very biased, and there isn't anything to necessarily weed out the things that are just full of really unhelpful rhetoric. And third, there honestly are just so many sources, you don't even know where to begin. So how could you possibly be sifting through to find the best resources when you get so many responses? Okay, so that said, I'm going to show you, first I'm going to Google a subject that I could write an essay about, and then I'm going to do it in a way that would be more academically friendly. Okay, so in the Google, let's see, first I'm going to Google cursive. Okay, cursive, and I'm going to search that. And when I Google just the word cursive, I have, 13 million responses. Okay, 13 million responses. I am pretty sure you are not going to filter through 13 million responses. That is just simply not possible. And then I also want to note that at the beginning of this, what's the very first one that you come across? Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a scholarly source. Do not use Wikipedia in any academic writing for any class, ever. You may have used it some in junior high, maybe even some of your high school teachers allowed you to get away with that. In college, your teachers will call you out for that. Wikipedia is not considered a scholarly source. Wikipedia certainly has its place. It can be a great resource to go to if you really don't know anything about a subject. But first of all, Wikipedia, because it can because it is an open program and it can be changed. That's one of the reasons it's not considered a scholarly source, so that's actually one issue with it. But there are certain sections that are locked, so those are not able to be modified. But still, the problem with Wikipedia is that it's an encyclopedia, and encyclopedias are really considered juvenile is the best way that I can put it. So it's not considered a scholarly source. So you would not go to the Encyclopedia Britannica at this point. So note to selves, do not use the Encyclopedia Britannica for your sources as well. Because again, really those are written to about a 6th grade level. So they are not college level material. Okay, so back to my source here on Google. So 13 million resources just on cursive, okay, and so that's not going to be helpful. But let's say I wanted to look, what I was really going to write about is that they're talking about getting rid of cursive writing instruction in schools. So because they say it's obsolete with computers and all of that, we don't actually need them anymore. We don't need cursive. So schools are starting to move away from cursive writing. And so we could write a cause and effect essay on the effect of no longer having cursive instruction in schools. Is there an effect? That's what you'd be looking for. Okay, so when we actually narrow it down a little bit to our more streamlined focus, we get down to 92,000 results, but that's still too many. There's absolutely no way you will be looking at 92,000 sources. That's just absolutely not going to work. So you would also want to really go to a different source to find that. Okay, so that said, come to the NCC homepage. When you log in, it'll look something like this. Obviously, that home picture will change from time to time. But you come here, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go over here to Academic Services, and you are going to look at well, it has library catalog here, but we can actually go now directly to journal databases. You used to have to like click in 2 steps, but now you don't have to do that anymore. So we're going to click on journal databases, and we are going to go and use the online databases for your academic research. The reason that we do this is because it has already been streamlined to have vetted sources that are considered scholarly and academic. And the databases are worthwhile in that as a school, as an institution, we actually pay to subscribe to these things. That's another note that I want to make. You need to make sure that you go through the NCC website to get to these databases. If you just try to Google, say EBSCO, which is the name of one of the databases that we will use, if you just tried to Google EBSCO and log into EBSCO on your own, you can't. They will ask if you have to subscribe to it. But if you go in through the NCC website, because you are a student, you can access the databases that way. We pay for a subscription to EBSCO. So that's the only thing. You just need to make sure that you go in through the NCC website to access this, and then everything is free. And the other wonderful thing about this is you are doing academic research from anywhere. Any computer, anywhere. You do not have to go to the school. Once upon a time, especially for those of you who are old timers like me, used to have to go to the library, go to the card catalog, pull the book, or go find the periodical that they had filed away somewhere, or, oh, God forbid, microfiche. And if those of you who are out there that recall microfiche, you know the headache that was involved in microfiche. And for those of you who don't know what microfiche is, basically think film strips, so like a movie film strip that had all the images of all of the magazines and newspapers stored in them, like photographs were taken of them, and you would have to scroll through them on this large screen really, really fast to try to get to what you were looking for. It was a nightmare, and it would give you a headache, and there was no way to print it. So you literally had to sit there and read the article on that screen and copy the information you wanted. And if you didn't happen to copy everything you wanted, and you went back and you were like, oh, it said something else in there, what did it say? You'd actually have to go back and find it again. There's my old person of the day story about how much easier you guys have it with computers. Okay, anyway, EBSCO. We're going to click on EBSCO here. You need to have your username and password, which I'm not sure which password I have in here, so I'm going to type mine in. Oh, come on. This is going to... See, it's not just you guys who sometimes have issues with your passwords. Oh, I bet you I had to capitalize. This is going to happen to me again, isn't it? And then I'm going to have to start all over, because it's going to kick me out in just a minute. Oh, come on. While I'm fighting with this, I also want to note to you that you do have to create a username and password. If you've never used the library services, you'll need to do that at the very beginning, and there was a link there for that. And if you have trouble with that, you actually have to contact our library directly. There's nothing I can do for it on my end. Okay, finally I got in. Here we go. So EBSCO. See, it is like live action. You guys can see exactly how sometimes we have trouble as well. Okay, so EBSCOhost, you're right here. So EBSCO is a database that's designed to, it researches magazines and newspapers and different journals, scholarly sources. It also has books available, and it narrows things down for you. Okay, so if I go in here and I just look for cursive, you'll notice, so I have 1,778 sources with just my broad search of cursive. So that is certainly a much more manageable number, but that's still too many. Clearly, you're not going to be researching through almost 1,800 different sources. That's not going to happen. Okay, so, but if I research cursive obsolete, I now get 7. 7 is a very manageable number. You absolutely can research and read 7 full articles if you wanted to. Okay, so that is actually that is much easier for you. I also want to point out a couple of other things in here. So you have these limiters. Full text should be the default setting on it, which means that you would be able to read it. There is the possibility for some of these that it wouldn't have the full text, that you would have to get it from the library itself, but that can also be a pain. If you're having a difficult time finding information, you may want to take that limiter off because you might want to go into the library, especially when you're doing a really extensive research project. But for our purposes, you should be able to find the full text here. So that limiter will be a default. You should not have to turn that on, okay? But if you need to, you would just click this box. Okay, peer-reviewed. I don't need you to have a peer-reviewed article, but for some of you, especially those of you who might be potential nursing majors, you may sometimes have to have a peer-reviewed article, so you would maybe want to check that box. Okay, and then also sometimes publication date. So you'll notice 2006 through 2000, well, it says 14, really it should be 15 in here, just in case there was something even more recent. But you can change the publication dates. You might have a teacher, again, who would say that it needs to be recent within the last 2 years. That especially happens, again, more nursing students, because they might want medical information that's very up to date. Okay, so you can set those limiters as well if you wanted to, because you would just change this end date. So it would have from the most recent and then going back as far as those parameters that you wanted are allowed. Okay, and then another thing I want to show you in here is the advanced search. You could also have accessed this from the home page, but from the home EBSCO page, but if you didn't, you can still click up here. And so you have your limiter. So I just put it in cursive obsolete, but I could put cursive and then and obsolete, and then I could search this way. This is called a boolean, okay, when you have the ands, and then you also have the option of an or. You could put in a word there, or you could put in a not. So I could say cursive, obsolete, not, no, not instruction, not styles. Okay, maybe because you don't want to have it accidentally come up with like different forms of cursive or something like that. Okay, so you can put these booleans in here, and that will narrow your search even more. So I can search that, and now I have 9. Okay, by changing my format to this. Okay, so that is a fair amount about how to use EBSCO. But what I also want to show you is, so you have the full text. You literally click on this, and you have, here's the article. This is the actual article that you could read. Few things about this here. For those of you, we've talked about learning styles. For those of you who are auditory, you can listen to your article. So,
has cursive writing become obsolete? Can your children write like this? March 14. Can your children write like this? March 14. I've been working with teenagers since 1972, and I've never seen a student who can truly write cursive in all that time.
Okay.
For the most part, they have
Hey,
trouble.
I press pause. Okay, so you have that. You can also change, you can listen to it in an Australian accent. Maybe you prefer that.
Has cursive writing become obsolete? Can your children write like this?
Okay, so that's an option. And then you even have the British accent. Maybe you prefer a British accent.
Has cursive writing become obsolete? Can your children write like this? The 14th of March.
Okay, so there you go. So you do have some options. So certainly you can read it for those of you who are more visual, but those of you who are auditory, you can also listen to it. So just so you know that that tool is available to you on all the different articles that you can access through EBSCO. Okay, one last thing, or actually two last things that I want to show you in here. Okay. So cite, we haven't quite gotten to this yet, but I just want to point this out. Next week, we're going to really cover the cite. But once you are in the article, you have the cite tool. It will create citations for you. So this is another reason to use EBSCO because it will make this part of your life so much easier. But the part that I really want to show you is add to folder. Okay, so you have to create a your own EBSCO profile, I guess. And this is separate from the one from NCC. So you would have to sign in, and let's hope I did that one right. Oh, come on. Here we go. I know I have it. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. Okay. So you have to create a separate one. Mine was already created. If it wasn't, you would need to, which actually I should go back and show you that. Oh no, you are going to bother me now. Okay, so to sign in, if you haven't, you'll notice right here, create new account. Okay, so if you don't have an account, you will have to create one, and this is a separate thing again from the NCC account. And I'm going to show you why you would want to do this. Okay, so I have my account. I am going to advanced search quickly again, and I'm going to put cursive and obsolete and not styles, and I'm gonna search, and I have my articles here. Okay, so this is why you want to create your own separate one, because a lot of times we're doing research in bits and pieces. So when you have your research, you say you're out for a little bit and you find this article and you're like, hey, that's a great article, but maybe you don't have time to do all of your research right then. I mean, often, seriously, how many of you just get to sit down for 3 or 4 hours and do your research and take your notes and start incorporating it into your essay? Most people don't. You do it in drips and drabs. So you do a little bit of research, you maybe do a little bit more another time. That's part of the reason most of you are taking online courses. You need to be able to work when you have time to work. So, but you don't want to have to keep repeating the same process over and over. So one way of doing it is you create folders in here. So I already have a few different folders. You can create more folders if you would like. So I have a cause and effect folder, so I can put it in my cause and effect folder. You can also create a new folder. You can create a new folder. Oh, sorry, that's up here. So if you want to create a new folder, where's my new folder category? Oh, right there. Sorry. See? Sometimes I get a little lost. New folder. So I have a cause and effect folder, so I could put it in there, but then I could also put it in cursive if I wanted to name it on my subject. And that is really just a matter of preference. Some students like to lump them by the course itself. Some students like to lump them by the subject matter. Some students like to lump them by the assignment, the name of the overall assignment, like cause and effect in our case. It's up to you, really, whichever one you prefer. But when you create these folders, then it's always in there. If you do not sign in first and create your own profile and save it into a folder, if you have signed out, I'll show you this. You sign out, it no longer has you in here. So notice it's sign in, it's just folder. The folder option is still there, okay? So folder, I can put it in the folder. It's there if I just click on folder, but when I log in the next time or change computers, it will not be there. So you need to really that's just a waste of your time. So make sure you sign in, have your own account, and then you do that. And then really you have information for years to come. And right now that may or may not seem like a big deal to you, but as you progress in your studies and you start studying the same sorts of information over and over that have to do with your major, you may want to go back and refer to other articles again. So that is about it for EBSCO. And really, I've really covered most of what I needed to in there. There's your EBSCO kind of guide that I'm going to give you. I will also tell you there are other databases. ProQuest is another one that you may want to use as well. You'll notice that it has articles from journals and newspapers. It's mostly business, education, medical, interdisciplinary, psychology, all this. So you could potentially find information in ProQuest depending on your topic. LexisNexis, legal, reference, business, medical. Okay, again, so depending on your topic. Joanna Briggs Institute, you may or may not use that. That I think is more mechanical information. Then you have the nursing full text for those of you who are potential nursing students. This is something you'll be using all the time. Okay, so there are others as well. Most likely it'll be EBSCO. That's the most general one. ProQuest would be the next most general one that you would use. And it has the same idea here where you can have your things where you check or uncheck if you don't necessarily want the full text, but you usually do. If you need it peer reviewed, if that's something that a teacher has asked you for. And then you can even narrow it by the subject, you can see down here. So it's really the same basic setup as EBSCO. So it has the same tools, it has the advanced search as well. So just make sure that you know that you have these available to you. Okay, so that is it. As far as research goes, you will need to utilize these tools for your research essays because I require database resources in both of your research papers. So make sure that you review this, take notes as necessary, and happy researching. All right, see you in the classroom. Bye.